What would you do if you found out your closest friend had been secretly testing you for months, keeping a mental scorecard you never even knew existed, and then punished you for failing a test you never agreed to take? Today's story comes from our /AmItheAsshole, sitting at about 8,700 upvotes and climbing, and it is one of the most quietly infuriating friendship betrayals I've come across in a long time. In the next 30 minutes, you're going to hear about a dinner that went sideways over a single drink on the wrong check, a late-night text message that revealed just how deep the manipulation really went, and a brunch the very next morning where I finally hit my limit and did something I never thought I'd have the guts to do. Stick with me till the end, because the moment I stood up and walked out of that restaurant changed the entire way I think about friendship. Grab a drink, get comfortable, and let's get into it. To really understand how we got here, I need to take you back a little bit. Not far, just enough so you can see the full picture. Because the thing about people like Stella is that it never starts big. It starts so small you barely even register it. And by the time you do, you're already drowning. So Stella and I had been close for a while. The kind of close where you text each other random things throughout the day, where you have inside jokes nobody else gets, where if something good or bad happens, she's one of the first people you want to tell. I'm 23, she's 24, and on the surface, we had a really solid friendship. The kind you think is going to last. But underneath all of that, there was this thing Stella did that I could never quite put my finger on at first. These little moments that would leave me feeling weird, off, like I had done something wrong, but couldn't figure out what. It took me a while to realize what it was. Stella was testing me, not in an obvious, dramatic way. It was subtle. She would go quiet for a few days, and then when I finally reached out, she'd say something like, "I just wanted to see if you'd notice I was upset." And I'd feel this wave of guilt wash over me, like I had failed her somehow. Or she'd call me when I was clearly in the middle of something, and if I couldn't drop everything immediately, she'd pull back, get distant. And then later she'd say, "I wanted to see if you would drop what you were doing to help me." Like it was some kind of loyalty exam I didn't know I was sitting for. And the worst part, every single time, I was the one who ended up apologizing. Every single time, I was the one scrambling to prove that I cared. I'd reassure her, I'd explain myself, I'd bend over backwards to show her that yes, I'm a good friend. Yes, I do care about you. Please stop being cold to me. It was exhausting, and I did bring it up. I want to be clear about that. I'm not someone who just silently lets things build until I explode. I actually sat her down and told her, honestly and gently, that I would really love it if she stopped doing these little tests and just talked to me openly when something was bothering her. I said it nicely. I said it clearly. And I genuinely believed we had turned a corner after that conversation. I was wrong. Last weekend, Stella and I went out to dinner with two of our other friends. Nothing fancy, just a regular evening, a restaurant we all liked, catching up over food and drinks. The vibe was good. Everyone was laughing, talking about work, talking about weekend plans. It was one of those easy, comfortable nights where nobody's checking the time because nobody wants to leave yet. When the bill came, we asked for separate checks. Pretty standard. Nobody batted an eye. The server brought them over and I opened mine up, glanced at the total, and something caught my eye. There was an extra drink on there. I looked at it more closely and realized it was one of Stella's. Whatever happened with the system, one of her cocktails had ended up on my bill. Now, at this point, Stella had already paid her check. She put her card down, signed, and was getting ready to go. And look, I'm the kind of person who hates making a scene. I really am. I didn't want to flag down the server, make everyone wait, get the whole thing reprocessed. It was one drink. It wasn't going to break the bank. So I just paid it and figured I'd mention it to Stella later. No big deal. Adults handle these things all the time. So we all walked out together, said our goodbyes in the parking lot. You know how that goes. Everyone's lingering. Nobody actually wants to commit to leaving. Someone keeps starting a new conversation. And in that easy moment, as casually as I possibly could, I mentioned it to Stella. I said something like, "Hey, Just so, one of your drinks got charged on my bill. No worries at all. Just wanted to let you know in case you noticed it on your receipt. That was it. That was the whole thing. I said it nicely. I said it offhandedly. I even smiled when I said it, because I genuinely did not think it was a big deal. But the second those words left my mouth, something shifted. I watched it happen in real time. Stella's face changed. The warmth drained right out of her expression, and she just looked at me and said, "Oh, that's it. Just oh. Flat. Cold. Like I had just insulted her." Now, I should tell you something about myself. I am an awkward person. I know that about myself. When someone gets rude or standoffish with me, I don't lean in. I don't push. I freeze. I get this tight feeling in my chest, and my brain just goes blank. So when Stella hit me with that ICO, I did what I always do. I let it slide. I said something like, "Anyway, have a good night," and I got in my car. But that "oh" sat with me the whole drive home. I kept replaying it. The flatness in her voice. The way she looked at me like I had done something unforgivable. Over a drink. Over a simple, polite heads up about a billing mistake. I told myself I was overthinking it. I told myself maybe she was just tired. Maybe she was having an off night. I do that a lot, by the way. Make excuses for people who don't deserve them. I'm working on it. Then my phone buzzed. It was a text from Stella. And it was long. The kind of long text that you open and immediately your stomach drops because you know it's not going to say anything good. She told me that she felt I had been acting selfishly. She said she didn't feel appreciated in our friendship, despite how much she does for me. She said she had noticed the drink wasn't charged to her. She had known. She saw the mistake on the check, realized one of her drinks was going to end up on my bill, and she deliberately chose to say nothing. She waited, on purpose, to see whether I would offer to cover it. And the reason she thought I should cover it? Because 2 months ago, she had helped me move into my new apartment. 2 months ago. I just sat there on my couch staring at my phone, reading that text over and over. Let me explain the moving situation because I think it matters. I am someone who genuinely hates inconveniencing other people. I go out of my way not to ask for help because the idea of being a burden makes me physically uncomfortable. So when I was moving into my new place, I did not ask Stella to help. I didn't ask anyone. I had a plan. I was going to move my boxes from my storage unit to the apartment by myself. It wasn't a big move. No heavy furniture. Just boxes. Stella volunteered. She offered on her own. She insisted, actually, and I appreciated that. I really did. But it wasn't like she spent a whole weekend hauling couches up 3 flights of stairs. She helped me move boxes. And when we were done, I bought us takeout. I sat with her, and we ate together, and I thanked her verbally out loud, because that's what you do when someone helps you. But here's what I'm realizing now. Maybe to Stella, that takeout didn't count. Maybe she saw it as something I would have done anyway on a random hangout night. Maybe in her mind, buying her dinner wasn't an explicit enough thank you, even though I literally said the words. Even though she offered to help without being asked. Even though the whole thing took a couple of hours and was honestly not a huge deal to begin with. But none of that mattered, because Stella had been keeping score. For 2 months, she had been sitting on this quiet resentment, waiting for me to somehow read her mind and figure out that she felt underappreciated. And instead of saying something, instead of just telling me like a normal person, she turned a restaurant billing error into a loyalty test. I texted her back. I was calm, even though I was furious inside. I told her that I understood wanting to feel appreciated. I do. That's a normal human thing. But I also told her that I didn't think it was healthy to help your friends and then expect something in return. That feels transactional. That's not friendship. That's a ledger. And I told her that if she really wanted me to buy her a drink as a thank you for helping me move, she should have said so 2 months ago. Right then, in the moment. Not waited 60 days and then turn it into some secret test at a restaurant. Her response? It shouldn't have to fall on her to keep reminding me to show basic appreciation. I read that sentence at least 10 times because it's such a loaded thing to say. On one hand, yeah, you shouldn't have to remind your friends to appreciate you. That's true. But on the other hand, appreciation isn't a mind-reading exercise. You can't set invisible expectations, never communicate them, and then punish someone for not meeting them. That's not appreciation. That's a trap. But I didn't want to keep going back and forth over text. I know how that goes. Things get misread, tone gets lost, and before you know it, you're in a full-blown argument that could have been a 5-minute conversation face-to-face. So I suggested we meet for brunch the next day to talk it out in person. She agreed. I barely slept that night. I just kept turning the whole thing over in my head. The drink, the text, the tests, all of it. And the thing that really got to me, the thing I couldn't shake, was the pattern. This wasn't an isolated incident. This was who Stella was. Every few weeks, there's a new test, a new hoop to jump through, a new way for me to fail without even knowing I was being evaluated. And I was tired. I was so tired. I got to the brunch spot early the next morning. It was one of those bright, busy places with too much noise and too many people waiting for tables. I sat down, ordered coffee, and tried to organize my thoughts. I wanted to be fair. I wanted to listen. I told myself I would hear her out, explain my side calmly, and hopefully we could find some middle ground. The coffee came. I wrapped my hands around the mug. It was warm, and the restaurant smelled like bacon and fresh bread, and for a second, just a second, I felt almost okay. Like maybe this would be fine. Maybe we'd laugh about it someday. Then Stella walked in. She sat down across from me. She didn't smile. She didn't say good morning. She didn't ask how I was doing. She just sat down, looked me in the eyes, and the very first thing out of her mouth was, "I hope you've had some time to think more about your actions." My actions. Like I was a child who had misbehaved and been sent to my room to reflect. I felt something break in that moment. Not loudly, not dramatically. It was quiet, like a thread that had been stretching for months, finally just snapped. Because I realized, sitting there with my hand around that coffee mug in that loud, bright restaurant, that this was never going to be a conversation. It was never going to be two friends working through a disagreement. It was always going to be Stella telling me what I did wrong, and me sitting there nodding and apologizing and shrinking myself down to make her feel better. And I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't. Something in me shifted, and for the first time in a very long time, I listened to it. I stood up. I didn't yell. I didn't make a scene. I didn't say anything cruel or petty or dramatic. I just stood up, walked to the counter, paid for my coffee, and left. I walked right past her, through the door, and out into the morning air. And I swear, the second I stepped outside, I felt lighter than I had in months. The sun was hitting the sidewalk, and there were people walking their dogs, and everything just felt quiet for a second, even though my heart was pounding. I sat in my car for a few minutes before I drove anywhere. Just sat there, breathing, thinking about what I had just done. Part of me felt proud. Part of me felt guilty. Part of me felt terrified that I had just ended a friendship over something small, and maybe I was the one being dramatic. But then I picked up my phone and I sent her one final text. I told her I was done. I was done participating in her little tests. I was done being set up to fail. And I told her, plainly, that I can't be friends with someone who isn't willing to communicate like an adult. I told her she needs to stop testing people. Not just me. Everyone. Because this is not how healthy relationships work. Not friendships, not anything. She didn't respond for a long time. I don't even know if she ever really responded in any meaningful way. And to be honest, by that point, it didn't matter. I had said what I needed to say. Now here's the thing. In the days that followed, I started second-guessing myself. I do that. I think a lot of people do that. You make a decision in a moment of clarity, and then later, when the emotion fades, you start picking it apart. Was I too harsh? Should I have given her more grace? Was walking out immature? Should I have sat there and tried harder? And I'll be honest with you. Some of our mutual friends had opinions. Not all of them knew the full story. A couple of them thought I overreacted. One of them said I should have just paid for the drink and let it go. And for a minute, I almost believed them. I almost called Stella and apologized. But then I thought about the pattern. The months and months of little tests. The guilt trips. The way she'd go cold and wait for me to come crawling back. The way every disagreement ended with me apologizing even when I hadn't done anything wrong. And I realized that what looks like one small incident from the outside is never really one small incident. It's the last straw. It's the final drop in a cup that's been filling up for a very long time. The drink wasn't the problem. The drink was never the problem. The problem was that my friend saw our entire relationship as a series of transactions. She kept a running tally of every favor, every gesture, every act of kindness, and she expected to be repaid on her terms, on her timeline, in ways she never even communicated. And when I failed to read her mind, I was selfish. I was ungrateful. I was the bad friend. Do you know how exhausting it is to love someone who is constantly grading you? To walk into every interaction wondering what invisible test you're about to fail? It's like walking through a minefield blindfolded. And eventually, no matter how careful you are, you're going to step on something. I think about this a lot, actually, about the difference between wanting to feel appreciated and weaponizing appreciation. Because everyone wants to feel valued by the people they love. That's human. That's normal. But when you start keeping score in secret, when you set traps instead of having conversations, when you punish people for not meeting expectations they didn't even know existed, that's not love. That's control. And the thing that really sticks with me, even now, is that Stella probably doesn't see it that way. In her mind, she's the generous friend who gives and never gets anything back. In her mind, I'm the selfish one who took her for granted. And I genuinely wonder if anyone has ever told her the truth. But the problem isn't that people don't appreciate her. The problem is that she doesn't let them. She doesn't give them a chance. She skips right past the part where you ask for what you need and goes straight to the part where you punish people for not guessing correctly. I can't fix that. I tried. I really did. I had that conversation with her months ago where I told her the test needed to stop. And she heard me, nodded, said she understood. And then she did it again. Because that's the other thing about people like this. They don't change because you ask them to. They change because they choose to. And Stella hadn't chosen to. So I chose to walk away. I still think about her sometimes. Not with anger, really. More like sadness. Because underneath all the tests and the manipulation, there was a person I genuinely cared about. There were good times. Real ones. And losing that hurts no matter how necessary it is. But I also know that staying would have cost me something I can't get back. My peace. My sense of self. The ability to show up in a friendship without constantly wondering if I'm being watched, evaluated, scored. I think the biggest lesson in all of this is that some people don't know how to just be loved. They have to prove it, test it, measure it, poke at it until it breaks. And when it breaks, they point at the pieces and say, "See, I knew you didn't really care." And the truth is, you did care. You cared so much. They just wouldn't let you show it in any way that wasn't on their terms. If you're someone who's dealing with a friend like Stella right now, I just want you to know that it's okay to leave. It's okay to say, "I can't do this anymore." It doesn't make you selfish. It doesn't make you a bad friend. It makes you someone who finally decided to stop failing tests they never signed up for. So let me ask you this. If you were sitting in that restaurant, coffee in hand, and the first words out of your friend's mouth were, "I hope you've thought about your actions," would you have stayed and tried to talk it out one more time, or would you have done exactly what I did? If you made it this far, you already know what to do. I'll see you in the next one.